Hi, this is Richard again. I had promised you guys I'd teach you how to clean the aluminum. And the basic thing is, when you JB weld this aluminum, make sure that when you cohese it to the bottom upper face of a piece of plywood or whatever the mold is you're doing, as I did here, basically. I cut this all out. This is all JB welded in here. There is no screws. There's only a foam pad on top for my vacuum form box. And what that does is hold my vacuum form panels in place while I take the router and go around and route them and make a flange on it for the back of my fishing lights. So the JB Weld works phenomenal, just phenomenal. So, but anyway, getting back to cleaning, make sure your surface is very clean of the plywood, but I don't clean the good plywood with acetone. I only clean the aluminum with sandpaper, just the bottom side I'm going to glue, and then I take and make up a little teeny jig block that I put down the side here of the inside of my wood framework, and then I go around and sand all that to rough up this bottom good plywood basically, and not take any of the wax off from my wax strips. And I'll show you one of those here if I can see it. But and I make all my tooling as I go for each different application. It's just a matter of getting a little bit of experience to be able to do this. And also the other thing I do is I make long videos. So if you ever see one of my videos and you want a short video, which you won't learn anything from, don't look at my videos. So if you want to learn something, I make a long video and I try and go into detail about how to do stuff. And it makes it a more cohesive environment for learning about different functions and things and how you can do stuff. I've been at this all my life, so I know a lot about it. But getting back to the block, and I use a sanding block, and you can make a sanding block up that is like this, and you can use a paint stick and then another piece of a paint stick, and then put the sandpaper around this. You don't want to sand with your hands, because I'll show you in a second what the deal is with your hands. Once you put this around this and glue it or hold it, you can JB weld it on there, then you've got a true flat surface to sand with on the bottom side of your edge of your piece. And the blocks I used for sanding were very small, they weren't very big. If you sand with your hand, as you hold it, you'll have up and down ridges, and that will create high places and low places in your mold, and then your mold will stick. If any innies or outie, a mold will stick when you do it, and you'll just be halfway sanding it. And on this aluminum, I only sanded the bottom edge because that's what I was going to JB weld. The other two edges I did not clean, because then I had less potential of it actually sticking to the sides and not being able to get it off, because once that JB weld sticks, you're doomed if you want to get this thing apart. You know, and then I cleaned the bottom of it, and on the JB weld, on the bottom side here, I ran a very, very small bead. I'd say the size consistently of a piece of pencil lead all the way around it. Took a few tubes to do it. And then I went back and applied, after that was dry and took all my strips off, I sanded this edge here and then acetoned it and went and put a good amount of JB weld on the outside. And virtually you can take these strips and hang a truck off of it. But I've got a little bit more to do to finish up my vacuum mold. And tomorrow we should have it up and running, and I'll take pictures of us vacuuming, cutting the panels, and I'll show you how it works. Right now, since I do have the JB weld mold, getting ready to make a router panel to route the backs of my back so I can bring my fins through my back of my panel for cooling. And I've cut a slot in plywood right here, and I'm going to JB weld this piece of stainless in here for my router bit to run along. And since I have the JB weld, it makes it so easy for me to work it. I don't have to put pins in it, screws or anything like that. I can just set the JB Weld up and clean this with acetone, both sides and the back, put the JB Weld in the hole, clamp it down, and tighten the clamps up for 5 to 6 minutes. Then I can release it and do my other piece. I have 2 other pieces. I'll show you that as I go along with it. Yeah, before I had JB Weld, I could never do any of that because all the other epoxies and stuff I got from local, none of that stuff worked. Oh, by the way, I showed you in the earlier video of this particular wax, and I'm in Fort Pierce, Florida, and you can get this from a fiberglass supply place up the road, and it's Fiberglass Depot is the name of the place, and it's in Fort Pierce, and just ask for Danny. But they carry this particular wax. This particular wax, I like it a lot because it has a real blue hue to it, and it's almost transparent, and it really does work very, very good.